Go ahead.
Okay, sir. So we'll record this session for the proof of the project.
Yeah,
So,
sure,
sir,
sure.
if you can give a small introduction about you, it would be good to know.
Yeah, sure. So I am Sanjay Aditya, and I'm a HR professional. I have around 10 years of work experience. I have worked with different companies from various sectors, such as banking from ICICI Bank, followed by Pfizer in the pharma side, and then I worked in Kevin Care, FMCG, followed by now I'm working with Wipro, the IT sector. Yeah. So this is a broadly in terms of my experience.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, I'm based out of Chennai. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. So the second question would be like, what are the HR policies in your organization that is being followed right
A lot of them are there. HR policies is a very big docket. Wipro is a very large organization, and it stretches across the globe. So various local policies are also there. Apart from that, there's a generic policy for entire covering all geographies also. So you name it, we have it. Leave policy, or leave policy on different types of leaves we have, and then we have shift allowance policy. We have reimbursements policy. We have transportation policy. We have a global relocation policy. So you name it, we have it. It's quite a vast subject. So that itself will take a separate session for you in terms of what are the kind of policies that we have. So
now?
yeah, so in Wipro per se, it's a very huge one. So that's
Okay. Okay, sir. So we'll go on to the next question. So, what are your thoughts on HR workplace trends and issues related to human resources? Like, what are the issues we'll be facing and workplace trends that is being followed?
okay. See, currently, every time, there's a different challenge. Currently, the biggest challenge for us is bringing people back to office. Okay. We have a lot of people, who are, sitting out there, local places, and getting them back to the base locations, getting
Hmm.
them back to, the workplace on a regular basis is a challenge. Not only motivating employees, but also motivating the managers to
Hmm.
ensure that their reportees come back to work. So they're
Hmm.
getting comfortable in the place where they are. But what they don't realize is that without a culture being formed, the fact of bonding. So last year, if you ask me, the biggest channel is attrition. This time the attrition is controlled, thanks to even the global recession. Also, you would say. But getting them back to office and creating a sense of bonding is a challenge that we are facing. That stickiness to the employer is the challenge, which I would say.
Okay. So the next question would be like, you being the HR of the company, could you think of any situations or behavior patterns in the employees working in your organization? What is the pattern or what is the behavior that is being followed in the organization?
Pattern of behavior. Okay. See, I wouldn't say there is a typical pattern across, but yeah, again, coming back to the point of work from home concept.
Hmm.
People are now saying, people now feel they take working from office as a privilege that they're doing to us. Earlier, by default, you're regularly reporting to work before 2019. And now coming back to office, they're asking questions which they never asked before, like do I get some kind of allowance, do I get some kind of transportation allowance, how will my petrol get reimbursed, how about my relocation? So many other factors are there which earlier was never into play. So convincing them and telling them it is back to the old norm, and also telling them that hybrid norm is the way forward. People do not know how to go about it. They're expecting the direction from the organization, but
Okay.
ideally I would say it is the direction that should come from the respective leaders over there. So that's how I would see. But pattern per se, yeah, actually right now there is randomness. That's what I would say. Every year there's a randomness. So
Okay.
that's how it's running right now. So yeah,
Okay.
so that's
So,
what.
like, since you have this kind of issue, how will you be able to like handle it, sir?
Okay. That's what we are trying to manage it through. See, for example, first,
So, is there any
the
particular
hybrid.
strategy or something that you have been followed to
Yes,
handle?
yes. Okay, if you see that way, in our account, the account that I'm handling. So Wipro is a much larger org. In that, there is a smaller sector, and in that sector, I'm handling a particular account. So if you see that way, what we're doing now is, we have enforced it from the leadership of the account. that, it is important that they start, coming to work. Okay. And what as HR, we have done is we have not pushed forward for them to come to work every day, but rather we are pushing them forward to first report to their base locations. So for example, if a person is supposed to be working out of Bangalore or Chennai, and he will be working in, say, Jharkhand or, Tirunelveli or some place where we don't know. Okay. So we basically tell them, see, if your location is Chennai, you'll have to relocate to Chennai. Okay. And if you had completely joined, in a setup where, you're completely working from home, then we will reimburse you for the relocation cost. So guys who have before 2019, who they came and they left, they'll have to come back on their own cost. But the other people will relocate. So we're giving that incentive so that at least people start reporting to office. So idea is that, we would, idea is that, we are trying to have people to at least report to office and say the next day itself when we ask them to. Okay. So when we start saying, say, for example, we get a very silly response, when we say, you're supposed to come back to Chennai office tomorrow or day after. They'll be like, sir, I'm in Odisha and I'm not able to catch trains to come here. Okay. So, I mean, that's not a response that we expect. So, but then rather we say, you relocate and sit in Chennai. Okay. And so that when we ask you to come the next 2 hours, you can be here. So that's the idea. Okay. So that is the initial step which you have taken. So we are hoping most people will convert that. Then pressure will fall on the others. It's more of a peer pressure which forms. See, for example, Hemant and Benny. Like, so let's say Benny, you're coming regularly to office. You're meeting me as a manager. Okay, and Hemant, you're not coming and meeting me regularly. I only know you. I see you on Teams and things like that. Now let us say when it comes to, and both of you have done equally well. Okay. When it comes to, who gets a better increment or who gets a better rating or whatever it is, obviously as manager, I would favor Benny over, Hemant, because, I see Benny every day, so these kind of factors we will probably start seeing maybe in the next year based on, how people are starting to come to office. Okay. So this is the kind of strategy I would say we have taken it. Okay. So Hemant should realize that if he has to see some progress in his career, he has to come down, over here, regularly. That's how it's.
Okay, sir. So we'll move on to the next question. Sir, what is your area of interest or domain? Like, what is the type of HR that you're most interested in?
See, I'm a HR business partner. Okay, I'm a HR business partner. So it basically covers a large ambit in terms of, employee grievances, queries and, disciplinary actions, or even regular, appraisal, performance management processes, or, promotion processes and increment processes. So, I closely work with the business on their challenges and trying to solve them. Okay, so I cater to that category, so I would say. So it is a very large ambit. Wipro being a larger organization, the scope is slightly narrowed down to only handling the employees. In my previous organizations, I've been doing work of, even onboarding and, and also recruiting and things of that sort. So, but here that onboarding and recruiting is handled by other specialist HRs, while I focus on, general business updates and things like that.
Okay. Sir, is there any particular issue that has happened recently? Like you have faced any kind of issues or problems that you have faced recently? Can you give like a situation kind of basically?
Issues in the sense, what can
like some kind of like
dilemma you are facing through, and any kind of like whether there is an issue that has converted into a big problem, at least at the stage of like employee stage and or internship stage. Any dilemma that you have faced while like you rightly said right now that promoting Benny would be much easier and much like it would be so helpful for you like that. Have you faced any real life scenario right now?
Okay. Issues per se. Okay. See, there are different issues at different times. I won't only put Wipro over here, but I would say various other issues are there. Like for example, okay, you can say that currently my pain point, would be that when it comes to any kind of employee disciplinary issues or employee insubordination issues. The managers normally don't reach us till it reaches to a point that they can't handle it anymore. Okay, like we would rather expect the managers to reach out to us much before. Okay, but it doesn't happen. For example, I'm just giving you a scenario. For example, a manager comes to me and saying, Sanjay, this employee is not working properly at all. I'll be like, okay, fine, probably let's start a PIP for him, performance improvement plan for him. Okay. But then when I inquire the managers on more details, there would not have been any kind of mail record where the manager has given a very bad feedback to the employee. He'd say, Sanjay, it's all on phone calls, or, maybe even Teams chat, video calls, he wouldn't have documented anything. Okay. And then, now it's time for performance appraisal as well. Okay. So if a manager gives the employee a bad rating, if the employee says, you never told me so, then we will have to prove to the employee that no, you are actually not, good enough, so legally speaking, there are some challenges which comes over here. Okay. So we'll have to tell them that we need to create a proper track record, have proper investigations. And the employee would have been with the manager for almost 11 months now. Okay. And after 11 months, you come and say the employee is not working well. Why didn't you come to me in the third month? That would be the question here. At least the third month, if you come, see, then what happens is, they would give him a bad rating. They would chuck him into bench. The employee will be on bench for a long time. No one will want to take him also. So thereby, you're actually wasting company's money. Okay. So it is a challenge, I would say. It is not a dilemma, but I would rather say it is a challenge from the HR front, to always know what is happening well in advance. Okay. So which is why we are trying to, make some, sessions with the managers. It's educating them that, how important it is to keep a documentation in place. So because we are only trying to protect the managers here. The manager shouldn't get demotivated saying, see, then what happens is the fear factor comes in for a manager saying, if this is a problematic employee, then I don't want it. Okay, rather take a problematic employee and show him that he's not working and make him work. Or, okay, fine, let him exit. So these kind of things happen. So this is one challenge that we're trying to overcome right now, I would say. So educating the managers on certain aspects. They think if an employee has a problem, it is the HR's problem. Okay. It is not that it is the manager's problem. I would tell them clearly, I do not know the employee. You should tell me. Okay, so that's how things are. Yeah.
Okay. Sir, so how do you approach the decision making, sir? Like, what is your power that you have in your hand? Like, how can it be used, and till what level you can use it?
Like, what do you mean by that thing? Like, what level in the sense?
In the case of organizational changes, we have seen in the new upcoming past 3-4 years. So what, how do you approach in decision making, whether to lay off this employee, or we have to retain the person, or we have to promote some manager to the next level? What's the process, and what is the consideration you take these decisions? Why you take these decisions?
See, primarily, we always stick to objective points. Okay, we don't get into subjective matters as much as possible. If at all there's any subjectivity, we leave that to the managers per se. Okay, so we basically tell them that you see, we basically take the last year's ratings, the performance ratings that individual has got, and then the role the employee is doing, and then the tenure of the employee in any kind of decisions that we make. Okay, so mostly, in promotions also, let's say, if he has got a good rating, and if he's doing a different role, and and how the manager sees him in the future, based on that, we actually give the power to the manager. We only guide him. We only ask them questions. So if you ask me, decision making from the HR end, it is supported with the business. Okay, so a business decision is the final one, is what we take. End of the day, business is the boss. Okay, so from the HR front, if you ask me, we only guide them in terms of what to do, what not to do. When they're doing a mistake, we will know, and that is where we get the decision making, saying that, hey, what you're doing is probably not right, please recheck. So that is the kind of thing which comes to. So when their objectivity itself is falls flat, let's say the manager wants to promote Benny, but the fact is that there is another employee who has better rating than Benny. Okay, but he's not being promoted. Then I will ask him why. You understand? So I'll ask him, give me the reasons for it. I'll at least ask him, validate. Tell that Benny is doing a different role compared to the other employee. Okay, so that is the kind of thing that I look forward to. So that is the kind of validation that I try to bring across. So I strengthen the decisions, and also I stick to absolute facts. So that I mean, what do you say? In the documentation perspective, it is very clear. Okay, if you see in a very broad term, I can tell like this. But of course, when it comes to employee grievances and everything, there is a lot of subjectivity involved. It is mostly the employee versus the manager, which is where I would ask them to get on a call with me, and I would listen to the subjective opinions of both of them, and then I would come to a consensus saying that okay, this employee, but mostly I will always side with the employee in a way. I would always give the employee to give it. I would always give the employee a chance to correct himself. Okay, So that's how I would always approach the problem, and wherever is absolute truth, yes, we have to hit it hard. If you do not report to office, if you do not do these things, and if it is recorded, then you can clearly push it into place. But when it's a subjective thing, like saying my manager is not liking me, or I manager has a bias towards me, then I need to get to know more instances. So that's how it goes.
Okay.
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. So, how can your department ensure that its hiring practices are fair and non-discriminatory, sir?
Yeah, see, in fact, I would say our hiring practices are pro inclusion and diversity. I would say that in Wipro, at least, in that way. So we are looking forward to improve. Wipro has a lot of inclusion and diversity initiatives. To start with, we do have a lot of gender diversity is one thing that we want to bridge. So Wipro right now has a very good gender diversity percentage, which is around 36, 33, 35%, if I'm not wrong, 35% or so. And we encourage, when it comes to this, the also in terms of activities like progressions, as in promotions, we ensure that the ratio, that is, if there are 10 women and 90 men, and if we are promoting 9 men, which is a 10% ratio, we expect the same ratio, if not more, in women. So we expect at least one woman to be promoted. So 9 out of 90, 1 out of 10. So 10 ratio is what we look at. So that way, in fact, I would say we are pro diversity in that way. In fact, women employee gets actually better opportunities than men in that way, if you see it in the numbers perspective. So that way it goes across. And we also have a forum for specially able people. We also encourage, many of my colleagues have some disability, which they are they are working with us as colleagues, regular colleagues. Yes, they do have challenges, but as much as possible, we push that through. So we try to not see the challenge, but we help them in whichever way possible. For example, I have a blind colleague who definitely has a challenge seeing Excel sheets. Okay, so we help them out in those cases. In fact, he's a manager, right? So and his team helps him out in getting the data for that. So we actually send some data out for him, in terms of managing these things. So that way it goes across. So if you ask me, yeah, this is the broad way in which we look at. And yes, we do not encourage any kind of discrimination or bias. In fact, we have, compared to India, outside we have much more stronger legal laws also in place. For example, in UK, you can't ask a person like, I guess here in an interview, you'd be very casual to get a question like, what does your father do? What does your mother do? And things like that. In UK, you can't ask such questions. Okay. So that amount of, biasness, we avoid that. Okay. So country-wise, it changes. But, in some countries, the laws are more stricter. In some countries, at least like India, we get to ensure that, a kind of diversity mix is there. Yeah.
Okay.
Sir, one of the main questions, like in this current generation, what do you prefer, like having an experience of 10 years, or person who, like, what are your hiring techniques? Like if you want to hire a person of 10 years experience, or you hire a person of 4 years experience, but more technical skills and analytical skills?
See, it basically depends on the role. See, we never see a person and then decide the role. Okay, we always see the role and then decide what person should be there. That is the ideal way of hiring, is what I would say. I worked in talent acquisition as well, in my previous organizations. So it is always never with the person. I do not see Benny and say, okay, Benny, you fit in this role. I rather see a role, and then I see, okay, fine, who can fit, A can fit or B can fit. And then, of course, there's always a compromise. You can never get 100% match. Okay. And then there is only a kind of a dynamic that you'll have to play, to see, how it can come across, especially when you're ramping up teams, when they're saying, when a person is going to have, say, 10 reportees and only has 2, when we start hiring the people, we start seeing the specialized skills. Okay, fine. Okay, this guy is more experienced, but he is more of a managerial person than a technical person. Okay, fine. We can handle him, because provided now we should take a very technical person. It's easier to take a technical person than a managerial person. So those kind of things, we'll have to take a judgment call only. So it is always with the role. I would say you take a role, you draft it out, and then you decide, how it comes across. Okay, actually, it reminds me of my first job, which I got in ICICI Bank. I was actually picked out from a campus. I was campus placed in ICICI Bank. I'm just giving an example. So I was wondering, I was only the two people, we got selected out of a lot of people HR profile, and I was put in a location called Madurai. Okay, so there I was, the HR for entire coastal and southern Tamil Nadu, a very large portfolio, and I was handling it. I was thinking, okay, fine. How did my manager trust that I could handle it? Like as a fresher, I could handle it. So when I went and asked my manager, on what basis you picked me out of all my batchmates, I went like, okay, you must have thought on many factors. For him, the answer was very simple. Sanjay, we wanted a person who knew the local language and who was, quite, healthy enough to travel extensively. We didn't want to take a sick person, who would fall sick. Okay. Apart from the technical knowledge and everything, we saw basically these two factors. And in this, it was only you who stood out, first. Simple. Okay. So basically, it is a role based on which they took me. So they just saw some parameters. I fit the parameter best. Okay. And they took me in when compared to my friends across.
Yes.
So that's about it.
So the last question we'll be looking at: how do you motivate your employees? Like, how do you motivate them to continuously look into the new goals they get and new things they encounter in their lives?
Like the existing employees, like who are getting down, how will you motivate them? And what about the new recruitments? How will you motivate them? Like, is there any different methods that you're using, or is it going to be the same?
See, one thing I'll make it clear, HR job is not, like it is moved on from a conventional level, wherein, HR jobs are to make people happy, it is not that. Okay. HR job is to make people competent. Okay. And if they are competent, they will eventually become motivated and they'll be happy. Okay. See, if you're doing very good in your job, obviously you will want to go to the job every day, rather than, doing something bad. So if you ask me, our main focus would be on making employees competent. And what are the factors that can help them become competent? Number one is any kind of learning and development programs that they have, okay, that we can introduce them to. Okay. Number two is, employee benefits and, processes that they have. If they do not have any hassle handling the regular day-to-day, issues, then it should not be the problem. For all this, communication is very important. Okay. So we have monthly HR connects, where people can share their grievances. So, so that, people, and even otherwise, they can always reach out to us. We are very open for them to reach out to us with any kind of doubt. Okay. So we also do get very silly questions to, very, very complex questions, which we have to handle individually. So giving that open communication itself is something that, should make them interested to, see, these are the minor hassles which should be cleared out for them. So 80% of your issues are all minor percent problems, the 20% are bigger ones. So as much as possible, this 80% should be ruled out. That's what we focus on. And apart from that, making them competent, that also we take in hand of the business, in terms of, any kind of cross-skilling that they need, any kind of, upskilling that some people may need. Okay. And what are the kind of programs we can do for them, especially when it comes to freshers? What are the training programs that they need to undergo and ensure that they are built at the earliest possible time? They're very motivated lot who can get easily demotivated in a very short space of time. Okay, because they're sitting on bench, given the current situations. So how to keep them engaged, how to get them going. So these are the factors that we see. It is more communication. Okay, I think Wipro as an organization has many forums and everything, but the problem is the communication. The information for the employees don't trickle down that fast. So that is where we as HRs act as enablers to trickle down that information. And I think that is the way we try to keep them motivated and say that something is coming up, or say that you are working on something. You are actually giving a challenge. You're giving a challenge to the employees, saying we need to increase these things. So that is where they stay engaged and they move on. So that is the idea that I see here. Okay.
So I think that's much questions are there.
Yeah, sure. That's great then. So you can off the recording and
yeah.